Hello, Jason. Before we get started, I wonder if you could kind of just tell us a little bit about yourself and your current role.
Sure. I am a educator by trade. I taught for many years in the Silicon Valley area, and I kind of launched into the technology world about 15 years ago or so, supporting schools and districts integrating technology in their classrooms and supporting a statewide project to support school administrators using technology in California. With that, I became Chief Technology Officer of Santa Cruz County Office of Education in 2018, and been kind of launching technology initiatives around Santa Cruz County specifically. I'm also currently president of the Q Inc. board, which is a statewide organization focusing on innovation and education in California and Nevada.
That's awesome. And I'm sure kind of your educational background and then having all of that and being able to work with that team has been really invaluable.
Absolutely. I mean, our focus is for students and to support students, and supporting students through technology is kind of the next generation of living and learning with an education, especially in COVID-19 era.
Sure. Can you tell me a little bit about Santa Cruz, just kind of who makes up your schools and what does that look like?
Absolutely. We have 10 comprehensive school districts in Santa Cruz County, roughly about 40,000 students. Half of the students' bodies come from one district in our South County, which is a lot of farmlands and farm workers. And with that comes a very high percentage of English language learners as well, and low-income families. And so we're just over 50% in our county, low socioeconomic disadvantaged students.
Yeah, so kind of even thinking about that and the makeup of your schools, and as we start to talk about, our current situation, what's happening with school closures, and just really trying to navigate what that's going to look like and really meet all of your learners' needs. So as we kind of talk about that, can you tell me a little bit just about how the Santa Cruz County Office of Education transition to the distance learning setting? As you know, and I'm out here in Pennsylvania, we were a little bit behind you, but it's been a learning curve for all. So I think it'd be really helpful from your perspective. How did you guys make that transition?
Sure. So it happened very, very rapidly. I
Hmm.
think we got notice on a Friday, or Thursday. We were closing the following Monday, and so we worked all weekend long to develop a professional learning plan for our entire county. Luckily, our county superintendent, Dr. Ferris Sabah, was able to get all 10 county superintendent or 10, all 10 district superintendents in Santa Cruz County on board with an aligned vision and support, and making sure they focus their energy all together as a consortium, as all 10 school districts moving together. And so with that, we generated a professional development idea or menu that they could utilize the following week to get their teachers up and running with distance learning. And we launched a kickoff of a program called Leading Edge Certification for the online and blended teacher. So this is actually a open source curriculum for teacher training, helping them be prepared to teach in an online and blended learning environment. And so what I did, being a certified leader of that training, I took basically that curriculum that's made to be an eight-week program and condensed it into a 1 week set of modules. And for our kickoff call, we had over 500 teachers connected, and we basically guided them through just some best practices around instructional strategies for teaching in the online program. Um, the idea of chunking content, being able to utilize voice and choice in student work, creating flexibility in students' instructional path and program, and giving them opportunities to pick and choose what tools to use and when to acquire the content knowledge. And so with any good instructional program, you need a place to house the content and the curriculum and the place for students to submit assignments. So you create a feedback loop for teachers to give quick and easy feedback. So the students can be addressed, their misconceptions can be addressed.
So I have to say, and kind of your description of how quickly you guys moved, right? In a couple of days, put something together, but then also realized you didn't have, the normal time to do that training, and then also having so many teachers on board. I could imagine that a lot of other districts and schools could really utilize something that you did. To your point, everything within our current time right now, it's very fast paced, and having teachers on board and really overnight switch completely how they were teaching. I could really see how, having that in place would just really streamline it and provide a sense not only for your teachers of a go forward path, but I could also imagine for your families to know what's coming. You mentioned that feedback loop, and I guess my other question I have for you is, this has been happening for a while now. What has the feedback been from teachers and from your families?
So it's been a mixed bag. I think one piece we also allude to is the ability to risk take, and the
Mm-hmm.
rapid prototyping. Try something. If it doesn't work, try something new. And so getting that mindset into the teacher's purview is so important, because some things did not work. And then the teachers all across our county have been doing a miraculous job of getting together as grade level teams and taking what they've learned and building capacity within themselves to design grade level span lessons, and working together to design lessons not just for their individual classroom but for their grade level span, to kind of leverage each other for the work. And so I think the teachers are seeing some benefits in that, to leverage each other for the support as well as for the instructional design elements, with the philosophy of we're not necessarily trying to build new skills all the time, but we're trying to minimize the slide of losing the skills the students learned. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so with that, I think, we've seen a lot of growth in the teachers' workload. I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done, but the teachers, I give it to the teachers for all the wonderful work they've been doing to get up to speed so quick and with with such enthusiasm. The teachers are there, and there's still, some work to be done, some tweaking to be done, but what we've done and what they're doing is seems to be working. Um, the parents, we get mixed bags. Some parents, we have single parents, we have parents that are working full time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, especially for the younger kids, it's difficult because the students can't do it on their own necessarily all the time. And so we're also trying to minimize the amount of busy work that is given to the kids, so it's not overwhelming for the parents. And again, I come back to the words chunking content. We don't only want the content to be chunked for the students, but also for the parents. We don't want to overwhelm the parents. And so we've partnered with some nonprofit organizations in Santa Cruz to offer parent support groups as well in distance learning education. So that's been very, very powerful on that end, because the parents also need a lot of support. We also created a website at dlearning.santacruzcoe.org. On that is a place for educators to get resources. And I know everybody's been inundated with a lot of resources. So
Mm-hmm.
we curated just like the top to me to 10 resources for different topic areas, different subject areas, professional development programs. And so we wanted to just streamline what they have access to for best practices according to our countywide expert content area experts. We also there's a family page on there as well that has wellness activities, how to keep take care of yourself as a parent, how to take care of your students, as well as created a parent guide for distance learning, so parents understand what asynchronous and synchronous learning is. What are the teachers doing to be a better online educator? So with that, parents have kind of a foundational understanding, if they read the distance learning guide for parents, of what to expect.
So I have to say that that component of putting things in place to support parents, not something that I've been hearing a lot. And I think it's that one piece that maybe as a district, a lot of districts might skip over. As a parent of two younger kids, I've got a third grader and a fourth grader. Um, I even think, and I was a former teacher, so I'm coming into this working full time, but also being able to teach for all of my non-teacher friends out there. Our support group is, a text back and forth. So I really think it's powerful that you've put resources in your family's hands, and that it also feels like teachers and parents are on the same page, because I think there's a lot of disconnection, and everyone kind of end of the day wants what's best for their students. It's just getting there. I also really like that idea that your point, when this all first happened, I mean, it was resource after resource being blasted to
Right.
everyone. Like, go onto this live YouTube clip, do this, do this. And I think as a parent trying to curate that, and even as a teacher, and I think to your point of having the resources out there and saying these are the best of the best, and bringing that together must be really positive for both your teachers and your families.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think we want to make sure, number one, you need to feel comfortable and safe and secure, because it's
Hmm.
not going to work. You could, that can come off on the students. And so we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We want to make sure the safety and security is at the forefront. And number one, parents are taking care of themselves, and students are taking care of themselves, or parents are taking care of the students, as well as teachers taking care of themselves as well. And so that's very, very important what we're trying to do. And then you alluded to the fact that making sure parents and teachers are on the same page. That's why we
Right.
created this distance learning guide. We wanted to make sure that people use the common language. They understood the jargon and the language that the teachers are using based upon their learning activities, and making sure everybody has a common idea of what this really means.
No, I think that's so key, because to your point, and your saying of jargon, it's true, right? As a parent with two kids, they might have been doing lots of different things in school, using different resources, etc., that I wasn't even privy to because I was home. And now all of a sudden it's all there for me, and I'm asking, well, how do I get into this, or how do I do this? So being able to have those guides, I think, must be really beneficial. And to your point, bridge the gap, but also make everybody feel comfortable, especially right now where there's a lot of uncertainty, and especially with kids trying to, give them a sense of comfortableness and safety.
Right, exactly, and that's kind of what our vision is making sure that's in place first before we go any deeper in instruction.
Yeah, no, I think that's really powerful, and something that districts across the country could really learn from and put into place. So, once you did have all of those, your districts were aligned, you put the teacher plan in place, you have the family support, all of those different pieces. One of the biggest things, and I know we're experiencing it here in Pennsylvania, but across the country, you've got these digital tools. How do you ensure that your entire district, your students, your parents have access to Wi-Fi and devices? How did that look at the district?
So that was kind of the second piece we put in place during simultaneously as we're delivering the content, is the infrastructure, right? And this is not going to do anything unless students are connected and have access to devices.
Right.
And so all of our 10 districts during that same week scrambled to procure hotspots. We collected some data. First, actually, we collected data. The first thing is you want to know who doesn't have access. And so
Sure.
we collected data on that. Some districts had data, but we helped some of the districts at the countywide level develop a plan to collect some of that information. And from that, we found about 18% of our families, roughly 6 to 8,000 kids, didn't have access to home internet and or devices, which is a pretty significant number.
Hmm.
And so most of the districts had a boatload of Chromebooks in their schools. And so the districts basically pulled all those Chromebooks, quickly created loaner forms if they didn't have a take-home program, and distributed those devices out to all the students. And so now most of the students are today have devices in their homes based upon the classroom, what they pulled from the classrooms. Um, then the second piece, obviously, is you can't really have a feedback loop if you can't submit online without
Sure.
internet. And so we had the districts work with T-Mobile specifically to procure T-Mobile hotspots. One district, I think, had 1,500 purchased. The other district had 700 purchased. But of course, T-Mobile was backlogged as well. So
Hmm.
we're lucky enough in Santa Cruz County to have a local internet service provider that's pretty big across our county called Cruz, and we partnered with them to develop a streamlined approach to get parents signed up for low-cost internet. And they're providing free service for up to 3 months. And so instead of having to go through their online form, we created at the county office level a streamlined form where then we would get the data from the parents who would submit the information, and then we would be able to verify with the schools themselves if they're low income. So there's no forms, there's no free and reduced lunch forms they have to submit to the telecom provider. There's no WIC proof they had to submit. It was all
Right.
done at the school-wide level. Um, and from that, we've connected, several families now with Cruz.io internet for free. We also were able to work with our local community foundation to provide funds for Cruz.io to expand that service as well. And so with that, they're also creating what we're calling parking lot Wi-Fi zones. So basically, Cruz.io is doing all the infrastructure work and mounting. They're mounting high capacity wireless access points on top of the roof of schools, some school sites, and just basically tying that into the school's network, and then blasting that out across the parking lot. And we're giving access to families that the ability to connect in the parking lot, or even like 500, 600 feet away, even there's a strong enough signal. Um, and so the idea is they would use their Chromebook, they would go to the parking lot school, they would download any content the teachers put up on the learning management system, load it on their Chromebook temporarily, be able to work on the Chromebook offline at their home, and then go back to school the next day or in a couple days to then sync back up online and submit those assignments that way.
Okay, that's as you think, kind of thinking about this as a whole, and all those different steps. To your very first point at the top of this question, it was, we could create all these great resources and teachers can be on board and families are on board, but if we don't have internet access, how are they able to do that? And I really, thinking about that parking lot Wi-Fi and just having that hotspot for families, being able to download that, are you seeing a lot of families utilize that and students utilize it?
So right now we have two school sites set up for that, mostly in the hills, because those are the places that don't get these
Hmm.
LTE signals from T-Mobile. And so we kind of we prioritize those families because we have an interesting topology in Santa Cruz. We're on the beach, we have farmlands, but we also have hills and mountains and redwoods. And so with that, we're prioritizing in the hills right now, so they're the more spread out school districts. But we are seeing students and families are utilizing it every now and then, and either parking there for a couple hours so students can get some work, watch a YouTube video, or
Right.
just download the work and come back. It's not the most ideal situation, but it works in the time being to quickly scale to a large group of families at once.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it probably also feels to all of those families that you see everyone, right? That you're trying to get resources out to every single family, because I think that must be, when you talk about, having your families be in a good spot, making them feel comfortable. Any parent right now wants to make sure that their child isn't falling behind, that they're able to keep up. So being able to put those things in place and give families those resources, I think, as coming from a parent, I would really, really be excited about that my school district cared, right? That's it. And
Yeah,
making sure that my child has all the things that they need.
yeah. We're really trying to, our focus here is equity across all our county in many different
Hmm.
aspects, and not just the digital tools, but in all facets of education. And so what we've actually launched a digital equity group with many stakeholders from the districts, from local foundations, from local startup companies, to really talk about digital equity and truly break that digital divide in our county. Not just now, this is kind of really pushing us to do it quickly, but we want this to be a long-term program and long-term focus area of our work.
No, and I think that's so forward thinking. I mean, everything that just happened and we've been alluding to, it was so fast and quick moving, but I also think as we're rolling these different things out, different initiatives, meeting all of our students' needs, it also has caused every district to really think about, what is distance learning? What does it really look like? And what is it going to look like moving forward? I'm sure that's something that your team has started to have those conversations about as well.
Exactly, exactly. This is not going away anytime soon, and
Mhm.
it's just pushing the need to really have a plan in place to support this blended approach to learning, and the importance of engaging students if something like this would happen again, more significantly, more long term. In the beginning of the year, the middle year, not necessarily towards the end of the year.
Right.
And so this is just starting the conversations, and I know we're being very reactionary towards this, but it is starting the conversation, and thank goodness we're having this conversation, and it's at the top of our radar.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think across the entire country, it's this, the educational landscape, it shifted drastically, and it did happen quickly, but to your
Right.
point, it is also something that now that it's here, we do need to look at it and really kind of answer those questions, because this could be, to your point, for a longer amount of time, or this could be part of the new normal.
Right, right. And we have great leadership at the statewide level here in California.
Hmm.
Governor Newsom, State Superintendent Tony Thurman, both are launching, this digital equity campaign, partnering with Silicon Valley, Google to provide hotspots and devices for the districts that can't provide them for their students, and all across the state. So I'm thankful for our state's leadership
Yeah,
as
no,
well.
absolutely. It's been really just exciting to hear you talk about what that's looking like within your district, but then across the entire state, and really thinking about every single student and making sure that they do have equal access to resources, internet, all of those different things.
Right,
So
right.
you guys have been doing this for a while, and everyone's kind of, working, learning remotely. How are you guys really monitoring IT support since everybody is remote? What is that looking like?
So, that's been a challenge. You go from 30 to 40% of teachers doing, truly 24/7 online learning to 100%.
Right, exactly. And
And
no one
so,
coming into buildings. No.
right, right. And it's not just, it's not just the teachers and the students, it's also the staff
I,
and our district staff. And we have a big business office because we are the payroll for the paycheck provider for all the districts in our county. And so in the financial system for all districts in our county. So with that, now everybody's telecommuting, working from home. Different issues arise. So luckily, we partnered with a bunch of local high tech startup companies and or employees. We have a pretty dense high tech industry here in Santa Cruz County, and a lot of these folks either are not working currently or slowed down a lot. So they've partnered with us to create a community-based tech support program where they're getting all these high-tech folks volunteer to provide tech support for students, families, and our staff. And so we've closely worked with them, are kind of doing background checks because we still want to make sure we are compliant and reviewing people's criminal history as well. So we also got our local community foundation to pay for the background checks for all these volunteers. And so from that, we have a ticketing system. This group has a ticketing system. We actually can now delegate some of our tickets over to this other group called Cruz One, and we're partnering and onboarding them on the needs and some of the trends we're seeing in support. I can't connect to Wi-Fi, my Chromebook's trackpad's not working, things like that. And they're taking that and creating a knowledge base, tutorials for us, etc. We also locally, we before the way our tech support worked is we had a ticketing system, but we also had open doors. People can always come into what we call the tech hut to get immediate support if they needed to. But now we're not there, physically. We still want to provide the open door approach. So we created a virtual tech hut. So basically, from 8 to 5 every single day, we have a Zoom that's always on, and all of our staff members have access to the link, and they can drop in anytime for immediate tech support. And so they can just go to a link, go there, and know that a technician will be there to support them.
That's fantastic. Now, you'd mentioned your administrative staff, your teachers. What about families? Do they have a way, if they're having issues, say, with the Chromebook or, not able to access a site, is that something that families are just reaching out directly to teachers, or do they have a place to go to as well?
So yeah, because we're at the county office level, we don't have that many students under our purview. There's about 1,400 students, under the county office school. But the bigger districts have a helpline that they call into,
Hmm.
both for English and Spanish as well, because of our high English language learner population and parents who only speak Spanish. And so a couple of our bigger districts have a hotline that they can call into to get immediate support as well. Um, but we are filling tickets also for students as well. They know how to contact us. We provide our information so they can email and also submit a ticket if they'd like.
No,
And
that's
again,
great. Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say too, this Cruise One group, if they're background checked, then we also have a process for them to request support directly through their website as well. This volunteer group.
Well, and I think, talking about how you were able to go from a situation where even as simple as something as, your open door policy, right? How does that look now that there is no place to go? And being able to just have that Zoom on, I think for all of your users, just knowing that they have that support also gives them that level of, being comfortable and feeling like they can reach their learners and do what they need to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important to make sure they feel like they have that support structure in place, because we don't want them to scare them away. We want them to try new things, but also have a feeling of protection, a net, if you will. And we
Yeah,
want to be
that's
their
it.
net.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where you're used to having maybe a net where you can physically go in and talk to someone, using the tools that we have to have that safety support, I think really, and I'm sure you can talk to this too, is making your organization successful.
right, right, right. Exactly, exactly. And our focus is kind of making sure the clients and our staff and are happy and feel successful, and
Hmm.
don't feel dumbed down by something they don't know about technology, but make it an educational experience, right? We live in education. We want this to be all educational. We want them to continue to be lifelong learners, not just our students, but our staff as well.
Yeah, and I have to say, everything that you've talked about today and the resources that you've put in place, and really thinking about it from everybody's role, and we're in this situation currently. What resources are my teachers going to need? What resources are my families going to need? And then you guys also thought outside of just the actual, learning resources, right? It's what do they need for their well-being? What do they need that, if I need tech support or those different things, how am I going to reach every single area? And I feel just kind of being able to talk to you and hearing what you guys are doing, really checking off those boxes and really making sure that everyone feels in a good place.
Definitely, and like you said, it's multidimensional. It's not going to all work in
Hmm.
isolation. You need all these things to mesh together, and for that folks to feel secure and supportive, in all these elements: the wellness piece, the educational piece, the informational technology piece. I mean, all these things play a role now.
Right. And the resource piece, right? That whole thing of
Right,
just
right. Continue
it all.
supporting them. Yeah,
Well, and I'd also
absolutely.
say something that you had said at the very beginning when you were talking about how you quickly moved out resources, you got teachers signed up, you took, lessons that would take this amount of time and put it into this and got these teachers and everyone certified. You had mentioned, there's a bit of risk with that and that you guys were willing to take that risk and see what would work and what would not work. And I think that's key as well. You recognized the situation and said, in order to meet needs, we might have to try some things that are not kind of what we normally would do. They're a little bit out of
Yeah.
the box, but I think they're working for your organization.
Yeah, exactly. And some things worked, and I didn't really talk about the things that didn't work.
I was going to
But
say that
yeah,
was my next question.
I mean, with 500 teachers and trying to get them through a week's worth of modules, it didn't work as expected. But we had some attrition and things like that, and but the idea was just to get them immersed into it, I think, and
Hmm.
probably if we could do it again, we would probably cycle a few teachers at a time through it, not 500. But we were kind of we were being pushed by time at that end. But one thing that's so important is we can't just launch this the next day. You need to train the teachers and get them with some kind of foundational knowledge in order to continue to move forward.
Now, after that initial launch of the 500 teachers, were other teachers able to come back through? And then do you also have any type of refresher courses for them?
So what we're doing now is we wanted to kind of get the teachers immersed now that they're with their students, and
Hmm.
didn't want to overwhelm them too much. They're meeting with their staff. They still have their own families and kids to take care of. So we kind of took a step back to observe, and we just administered a needs assessment survey. We got about 200 teachers responded. So we're going to use that data to drive the next training elements as well, next cycle of training. And so
No.
it's important to collect that data. So that's kind of our next steps, as well as we didn't really talk to the administrators or the principals and how to make sure they feel comfortable supporting their teachers on the day to day. So that's also part of our next steps.
No, absolutely. And you had mentioned those surveys that you sent out for teachers. Did you see some common themes across the 200 responses that came in?
We did. You know, a lot of it, some of it was on assessments and how to, you know, provide good direct instruction, like screencasting,
Hmm.
how to screencast more effectively. So some of the tools that teachers need to utilize in an online environment, to be successful in delivering content. So now it's kind of more, okay, how do we take the ideas and things they're putting in their learning management system and provide more content around that so they can provide more direct instruction. Right. So
Okay.
this is kind of building the new skills.
Yeah. No, and I really feel like, if you went to survey our teachers across not only within your organization, but across the state, across the country, I think probably the same type of themes are going to pop up, and just really being
Right.
able to have resources in place and try to answer them.
Right. Exactly. And you know, it is thematic, and I think all teachers, you know, are similar, and some are more tech savvy than others. But
Hmm.
you know, by doing this, you know, now full time without any physical classroom interactions, it's tough. And you know, I think you know, teachers first launched when were go the first few weeks, and they're realizing they got to take a step back, and also just you know provide opportunities for students to reflect and not be so regimented. And so this is all the risk taking and learning by doing kind of thing. Which you know I've never you know I'm training people on this, but I've never actually had my classroom like this either. So I envy the teachers you know going through this right now.
No, absolutely. As a former teacher, it's something that I've been thinking a lot about.
Oh
What would it
shit.
look like if I was still teaching? And how would I be able to adapt and roll those different things out? But I do think one thing that you guys are doing that's key is checking in with your teachers and really seeing what they have as far as needs, and then taking that time, reassessing, and putting more things in place for them.
I think you know the opportunity for teachers to explore these resources is going to really see us have an uptick of technology use in schools, and hopefully that's going to drive their use of all the tools that PowerSchool is trying to promote and support a data informed group of educators across our country and beyond.
No, I think that's so true. And you had mentioned, with this happening, you had teachers who were gun-ho technology, doing lots of things within their classroom. You would have had teachers that, would dabble in it, but this has kind of brought it all to the forefront to say, we are using technology. How do we use it? And then how, to your point, use that to really drive instruction and have that student success. So I applaud you guys for all the things that you guys are doing within your organization and really giving that support to your team and your families, but then also recognizing that things are changing, and what do we need to put in place to make sure that everyone's successful moving forward.
Right, exactly. And we don't want to lose the momentum either. And so
That's
we're launching a distance learning leadership network and bringing teachers from all across our county together to kind of continue the conversation and drive these initiatives and help support a countywide movement towards distance learning.
No, that's fantastic. Well, I want to say thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Really wonderful being able to hear what you guys are doing, what's working, and really how you were able to move quickly, take those risks, and put things in place in order for your entire organization to be successful. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for the time and the conversation, Sarah. My
Yeah,
pleasure.
absolutely.